Oh hey, am I live? Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Am I live? I oh, it looks like it is live now actually. Oh, hello. Hello. I'm going to do that a lot. It's annoying. It's great. So, anyone who doesn't know, I'm a fan of music. I listen to entirely too much probably. I listen to every genre for the most part. Oh, I love the reflection of my bald head off that. Oh, that's beautiful. Um, Music, every genre for the most part. I can't think of a genre off the top of my head I don't listen to without like I'm trying to divest myself from. Um, I The only one that comes close is maybe country music. I don't listen to a lot of it, but I do listen to some of it. In fact, I like some modern country. Oh gosh, her name escapes me. "Mind Your Own Biscuits" is one of her songs. Katie Musgraves, great musician, love her stuff. I like a lot of old country. I like a lot of Hank Williams, original senior. Hank Williams III as well actually has done some interesting weird stuff. Oh, thank you, Bettina. Yes, yes. "Mind Your Own Biscuits," life will be gravy. Um, but because I love music, I decided to do something that no one asked for, and that most people either haven't listened to a lot of, or if they have, they haven't listened to the other. And that's technology in modern music. I work in IT. I work in computers every day, and so I like to see the evolution of what computers and what technology can be in music, not just in the electronica genre, because electronica is weird. It's a it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. So I wanted to go something a little bit more mainstream, even if some of it technically isn't mainstream in certain ways. I'm going to be going over Radiohead's "OK Computer" and Janelle Monae's "Dirty Computer." Right? No one asked for that comparison, but I'm going to do it because it's almost midnight, and why not? Um, Both musicians I really enjoy. I actually enjoy a lot of Radiohead. I'm not as well versed in them as many people. Happy to admit, I don't know a lot. That's a thing. But I do like a lot of OK Computer. Um, and I also wanted to point out that I like a lot of Janelle Monae. I think her newer albums are amazing. Specifically, "Dirty Computer" is great stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna walk us through some of a little bit of a compare and contrast of the two. So I'll go ahead and do this a little bit piece by piece. But well, first thing, I want to go through some of the major songs of their albums. So "OK Computer," for people who don't know, was one of Radiohead's, if not Radiohead's biggest hit album. It was the album that their producer said, "Don't make, don't do this. You will kill your career." And they said, "Fuck you. We're gonna do it anyway." And it was amazing. It garnered rave reviews across the board. Um, the two songs I think individually are the most standout from that album are going to say "Paranoid Android." If you haven't listened to "Paranoid Android," it is artwork at its finest. "Paranoid Android" is kind of like "Bohemian Rhapsody," in which it takes, oh yeah, freaking amazing. Uh, it takes every little bit of the influence of older generations and tries to reinvest it in what they're doing. Paranoid Android also kind of takes you on a journey. In the same way that the whole album takes you on a journey, Paranoid Android takes you through a journey of a couple different emotions throughout that, even just the one song. It is probably on that album the most critically acclaimed, if nothing else, but the most well maintained of all of their songs, I think, off that album. I think it represents that album a lot more in ways that others cannot. The only other one that I think comes close in terms of artistry is The Tourist. The Tourist is the closing song off the album. It doesn't get near as much respect as some of the other songs on the album. There's certainly ones that are more popular. No way The Tourist is the most popular off the album, or even close to most popular. But it has a soulful feel, and much like Paranoid Android, takes you through different genres of music, even as you listen to the song. And also, in a way that Paranoid Android kind of takes you to lows, highs, lows in different ways, The Tourist starts you off at the bottom. By the time you get to the final song of the album, you're desperate for anything. You're desperate for some sort of slice of hope, and The Tourist will give that to you eventually. But show some nipple, just a little. Oh no, Dan, you maniac! I want to. Trust me, I want to. But the Tourist off of OK Computer, final song. It wants you to despair for a little bit before it finally shows you a little bit of hope. Whereas Paranoid Android is going to tell you the whole way through, this is an up and down of what technology can do. Tourist is going to say, technology is shit, we hate you, but there's hope because we're humans and we can change. Technology cannot. Dirty Computer, on the other hand, has a very different feel to it. Janelle Monáe, I'm going to mispronounce her name numerous times, I can tell already. Make Me Feel is probably the standout track on her entire album. Make Me Feel, if you haven't listened to it yet, is the sexiest song in the past 2 or 3 years. Just look it up. I'm not wrong. It's true. The only other song that comes close on her album is Pink. Here's the only problem with those two songs. Their standout sound or tracks on those albums, they don't really fit like Make Me Feel does in ways once we start looking at the larger themes and the larger parts of the album. But Pink looks at maybe our humanity. It's cute. It's a cute song. It's really fun. It's got a hilarious music video. Avril Lavigne, man, Dan, I can review some Avril Lavigne if that's really what you need. I can do that eventually, but I want to keep this up as a compare and review. So who would I put Avril Lavigne up against? Like who? Because I mean, who can stand up against the Lavigne? I mean, let's all be honest with ourselves. But I think we're done with the tracks. I want to come up against the illusions of these albums. What they represent, what they show to the masses. And OK Computer by Radiohead is apocalyptic. it's post-apocalyptic in many ways. It shows, hey, technology, it controls us. It can also not only control us, it can actually be a representation of where we are and where we're going to. Literally anyone against Avril Lavigne. Well, okay, you gotta give me a contender that can actually stand up to her, because I mean, honestly, just. Also, are we talking about Avril Lavigne before she was killed and replaced by that person? Because we all know the conspiracy theories, which are entirely right. Avril Lavigne's nowadays a plant. Obviously, obviously. Anyway, anyway, OK Computer, the illusions of it, uh, post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic, and also delved into yuppieism, which is a weird thing to say in modern day, but during that time period, it was a big thing. Yuppies, people who fought for computers and fought for money and fought for capitalist systems based upon capitalist systems and based because of what they were doing in them. Uh, Yo, Trey, how you doing, man? Uh, if I sucked that hard, I'd tell people I was dead too. Yeah, I mean that's fair. Hey, Trey, how you doing? Um, Sorry. Anyway, illusions in OK Computer and such. Um, OK Computer was anti-capitalist. Let's just break it down for what it is. Uh, Straight up, the Radiohead said one of their main influences for OK Computer was Noam Chomsky, who at the time was not only anti-capitalist but anti-intellectual in some ways, anti-technology for sure. But he kind of verged on that weird borderline of should we diverse ourselves from society? And OK Computer, you see this throughout the entire thing. OK Computer from the get go tells you uh, this is the computer, this is you, this is what's happening. Mm, mm, you don't want this. This is what they're saying. You don't want this commingling. And in some ways, I get it. In some ways, hasn't really stood the test of time. Janelle Monáe's computer, Dirty Computer, on the other hand, is almost in some ways a reflection of what we've already had in sci-fi and fiction already. If you watch her whole few like experience, because it's not just an album. If you don't know yet, it's a whole music video experience. Like she has a whole music video that's like an hour long. I don't even know what she calls it. It's not called a music video. It's called a fucking music, I don't know, diatribe, if you will. But it calls out to things like The Giver, not just, not even just the book, but like the movie. In terms of literally, it changes things from black and white to color, which is a little ham-handed, but you know it is what it is. Blade Runner, it even calls out to. The ideas of what makes a human human, and what makes emotion important. Is emotion important in an advanced society? Is emotion the important thing, or is the society the important thing? And it even goes on to kind of argue about the illusions of emotion and even memory versus truth and emotion. Is memory a I'll check it out. I actually don't know. Hey, Bettina, that's the whole reason I did this, is because I really want people to check out both these albums. Because if they haven't checked out one or the other, I had never listened to either one all the way through. I've listened to parts of one, I've listened to parts of other. I had listened to OK Computer, Paranoid Android specifically, because it was always one of those that was like thrown around. And I listened to a couple other their little singles from the album, but otherwise I had never listened to both these albums in complete. That's kind of why I want to expose y'all to this, because this is, even if they're not meant to be compared, I think the idea of comparing these two albums, who both had great impacts on or were both heavily influenced by technology in a modern day where I'm literally talking to you and telling you about this through technology, I think is important and I think is neat. I think it's something that we can all share together and we can all have a lot of fun with. Illusions in both albums get complicated, get kind of crazy, but they both kind of go in different directions. To the point to where once we get into the story of things, OK Computer is the computer wins. that's the long and short of what the story of OK Computer is. OK Computer is a society which is in all reality our modern society, predicted years ago of our reliance on computers and our reliance on machines. One of the reasons that the lead writer, oh god, the lead musician, lead singer on Radiohead, which I literally can't remember his name now. Of all the things I can't remember, one of the things that drove him to write OK Computer was not just experience with computers, but with technology in general, specifically seatbelts. Weird, right? Like the thing that we take for granted these days. A seatbelt changed his life. It literally saved his life in a car accident, and he actually uses the seatbelt as a turning point in not only some of his music, but in the story of the album. In a place where technology meets a point of no return. It meets a point of technology values my life. At what point do I start valuing that technology more than my life or as an extension of my life? Am I alive because of technology, or am I part of technology because I'm alive from the technology? Weird, kind of crazy, right? But it's kind of a fun concept that brings you into the rest of the album that kind of delves into, I don't want to say cybernetics, because that's a little bit of a leap, but delves into the idea of a modern day society that is wholly reliant reliant on technology, which I wouldn't say we're diverse from. We're all up in that technology, um, but in a way, it kind of shows when we delve into that technology and we introduce it as part of our lives. Does it become part of us? Does it become part of who we are? Are we lesser for it? Do our lives mean less when they're saved by technology? Do our lives mean something differently when technology is present? Kind of an interesting topic, but nothing that really actually gets resolved in OK Computer at all. Dirty Computer, on the other hand, Janelle Monáe, uses technology as kind of a way of propagating the species. Not in just literally a biological way. Because, I mean, we've always had technology in sci-fi as a way of the continuation of human beings. In The Giver, it was like, hey, we almost killed ourselves. Let's, get rid of feelings and continue on the species. But she looks at it as the way of preserving humanity, not just in a biological sense, and not even just in a technological sense, but in a spiritual and a sexual sense. Odd, I know, but she looks at technology, and one of the reasons why it's called Dirty Computer, because she sees technology not as a way of divesting from humanity, though it can be. It's even certainly used as a way of diverging from humanity and what humanity is in her story. But what she views it as is a way of evolving our society and evolving our sexual culture to something new. You don't get songs like Make Me Feel and Pink without saying, here's a society who values sexuality in a way that we didn't before. Unless you want to like call out maybe, Roman orgies. That would probably be the closest thing you would get to Make Me Feel in a modern day society or a modern day setting. And even then, you're starting to get into that more Prince aesthetic, which she certainly calls upon. But it's a way of propagating the species. It's not right or wrong, and there's ways to fight against it. It's not an absolute. Whereas OK Computer is basically an absolute saying, here's what technology is. Here's what it's going to do to you. We have some hope, but Janelle Monáe says, here's what technology can become. Here's what we can do with it. Here's what we can do with it right now. Here's how we can experience it together. Not just a you and me thing, but an all of us thing. Interesting in a way that's entirely different. Getting into the effects and impacts on the genre. OK Computer, if y'all don't know, both propped up and entirely destroyed the modern rock genre. Have you seen a station committed to modern rock? No, you haven't. You know why radio stations have a modern rock genre? Because modern rock was blended with pop music and electronica in OK Computer. That's one of the main components of what we literally have today. You have some newer bands and newer artists out there who've done the same thing. Daft Punk is a great forefront of that as well. Kanye West even took that to new levels. Jay-Z also is another one. Both of them who pushed electronica and pushed beats as the forefront of hip hop as opposed to lyricism, which kind of changed the genres in and of themselves. But if we're going to talk about modern rock music, Radiohead changed the game. That's literally all there is to it. Like, you cannot find a radio station today that's going to play you modern rock music, because it's going to be modern rock, modern pop, modern grunge-ish, metal-ish. It's not going to be just rock, because that genre literally doesn't exist anymore. They blurred those lines to the point to where we don't have that. That's how impactful this album and this band was on the genre. And that's not a bad thing. The mixing of genres is good. When we can find these new genres, we can find these new artists, and find these new ways of doing these things, we get amazing results. Look at Gorillaz. Gorillaz is an amazing representation of modern pop, hip-hop, which we would have never had without OK Computer. They kind of blurred that line of pop rock in a way that we didn't have before, and that Gorillaz capitalized on out the gate as soon as they could. I literally can't go on enough about their impact on the genre and on music in general. Dirty Computer builds on that. I can never say that Dirty Computer has the same effect that OK Computer did. As much as I love Janelle Monáe, and I would love to say how much her music has affected the genres of today, it's not the same as Radiohead, because she just doesn't have the audience that they had. She blends genres like nobody else. I'll say that much. She blends genres in a way that we don't see a lot, not just in pop and rap, but even in modern R&B in ways, and even in religious undertones. There's even, I don't want to say religious symbolism or even religious genres of music blended in, but religious idealism blended into her music, just because of the way that she likes to present her music as. She likes to put it forward as an ideal that someone can follow. She likes to present it as an ideal that we can agree on as a group and we can work towards, much like a religion. Though there is some religious connotations and some religious overtones and even some religious, I don't want to call it music. It'd almost be folk religious music, but there's some stuff in there. It's frustrating to talk about, because Janelle Monáe herself even decries religion from her music. She doesn't like religion in her music, and she doesn't like her music being a propagation of religion, which is frustrating on levels. Even as an atheist, it's okay to have religion in music. It's okay. I enjoy it. I can listen to Ain't No Mountain High Enough and enjoy the religious connotations of that music and not have to separate it from the music itself. But that's neither here nor there. Next, presentation. OK Computer, the entire album is a complete work. OK Computer feels like one cohesive piece. It feels like one album that they thought out. We want this track, we want this track, we want this track, we want this track. That one, that one, that one, that one. Make them work. We want them all together. We want them to build a story. We want them to build upon each other, not just from a story sense even, but from a musical sense. You can even hear I don't want to call it an interlude between songs because they don't actually have a whole track for the interludes, but they find a way to parse those interludes at the end of one song and the beginning of another song. In Paranoid Android, at the end, you actually have this downbeat that kind of follows into the next song, which it kills me that I can't remember the name of the next song. But you can hear it follow into it. You can hear the tracks blend into one another. It is one cohesive piece altogether. Fascinating. Amazing. Something that I think every album needs. Every album should strive to be that way. Every album should try to give you an experience unto itself. If it can't, put out some fucking singles. Put out some singles. Put out some EPs, some LPs, some little short 4 or 5 track things. If that's all you got, that's not a bad thing. There is one of my favorite LPs of all time is Fair to Midland. One of my buddies in a band called Fair to Midland. They put out a I don't know if it's an LP or an EP now. The memory does not serve me, but it was based around one of their singles, and I want to say it was based around God, narwhals or something. I know my brain does not work. It's late, but the whole thing flowed. It felt like a cohesive piece of art, and that's what I think art needs to do. And Dirty Computer doesn't do that. Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer does not do that. It is a multimedia experience, I'll give it that. There is no overwhelming music video experience from OK Computer. It doesn't have it. It just not is there. There's some music videos accompanying certain singles from their album. They're okay. They're worth watching. Dirty Computer literally has a music video experience that goes through every track on her album and tries to connect them. And sometimes the connections are tenuous at best. It hurts to say that because I love the whole album. I think every track on it is good, but they don't connect. They don't flow in the same way that other tracks do. Finally, the last thing I want to touch on, second to last thing, is the timelessness. OK Computer changed the genres. That's literally the front and back of it. That's all there is to it. It changed genres. It changed music, and it changed what we define music as. It is timeless in a way that I can't define in our modern era, because it's probably going to go past our modern era. It's probably going to continue on into the future in this way. It's probably going to continue to merge rock music with other genres as it continues. And people will continue to pull from it as they have to this day. Dirty Computer, it's not timeless. It's not timeless, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it is a product of our era, and I think that it has themes and ideals that are important to our era. It talks about body positivity. It talks about being black in our modern culture. It talks about being a black pop artist in our modern culture, which in the realm of Taylor Swift and, yes, Avril Lavigne, Dan, in the age of all of these people, she has a hard time with it. And she goes into this even in her songs and goes into the problems of being a not Nicki Minaj shaped figure in modern pop music. And that's something I think that speaks to people in our time period. I don't think it needs to be timeless. I think that it's one of the most timely albums that we have. It goes Pink, one of the albums that I said that's even off topic, goes into feminist rights issues and into feminist ideals in a modern setting and in a musical setting that we just don't see. I I literally can't think of another song that deals with concepts of feminism in the same ways that it does. Finally, I just want to do an overall review rating. I don't want you to call it on a 1 to 10 scale for everything. I think Dirty Computer is a 8. I think that it has room to improve. Quite a bit of if it was more than just the 2 tracks, I think that had problems in the cohesiveness of it, I would actually give it a 7, which hurts my soul because I love the album. But I think that it reaches high and doesn't quite make it. OK Computer, I gotta give it a 9 out of 10. I don't even like the entire album. That's how crazy the fact that I'm actually rating it higher is to me. There is tracks on OK Computer I probably won't go back and listen to unless I'm listening to the whole album through again. But the presentation as a whole and what it's done to our genres of music and what it's done to my interpretation of modern day music is so important that I think it needs that ranking. And I think that it deserves it. I think that it, in a time where Radiohead could have done the most easy, poppy, silly kind of modern day schlock that even their producers and everyone on their label wanted them to do, they put out something that defied what could be done. And I think that's important. And I think that that deserves praise because not only did they go for that, they achieved it. They achieved it in a way that no other modern rock album has done since then. And you probably couldn't name a modern rock album that even comes close to it in this day and age. You could probably name some modern genre ill-defined albums that could come close. I would say that Kanye West's Graduation album is the closest thing that comes that approaches what we have for changing the genres. But even then, the ideals and the story behind Graduation aren't as strong as even in OK Computer. So OK Computer is going to have to be a 9 out of 10. I would give it a 10 out of 10 only if I literally enjoyed every song on the album. I can't. There's some in there that I have a hard time getting through, whether it be just because they're meant to be hard to get through or not. I don't know. But I think that pretty much sums up OK Computer and Dirty Computer. I mean, I want these albums to play nice. I want you all to appreciate both of these albums because neither one of them is bad. Both of them are excellent. And I think they both deserve listening to. But that's kind of my rundown of both of them. No one asked for this. This is not something that someone was like, hey, can we figure out a way to have expressed together in ways that it doesn't make sense. But I bring these both up because they're both applicable to modern technology and modern sensibilities in a way that I don't think other albums do. Um, the other ones that come close to that are electronica genre albums, which, oh boy, that's a whole nother genre of bullshit to get into that I just am not going to deal with. I'm not going to do it because then we start to get into space opera. Do y'all really want to listen to a space opera album? I do. I like that kind of crap, but there's not a lot of people who do. Um, but if you like it, if you like what I had to say, just let me know. Throw a like. I'm going to throw this up on my YouTube channel. YouTube slash CJ Crash Override. That's Crash Override with a 1R. I'm going to go ahead and post this up to my page later and link it if you didn't catch it earlier. But I appreciate everyone who hopped in. Bettina, thank you. Dan, Trey, all of y'all. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate y'all chiming in. But I will see y'all later. Now, how the fuck do I close out of this thing? How do I end this? I haven't figured this out yet. Oh boy. This is going to be awkward. Oh man. Still